Well, one of the things I found most exciting about being here was this is a group of travelers as opposed to people who are just selling. You know, these are people that seem to actually have drunk the Kool-Aid and believe in travel and believe in the magic of it and the sort of larger purposes of travel. Just in talking to people, their enthusiasm about travel is to me what's so exciting. And so no matter what destination or anything they're talking about, it's their sort of motivation behind that their love for where they're talking about and for the act of sort of getting out and connecting to the wider world, especially places that are less, off the greatest hits of travel. These people have a real connection to these places, and I find they're sort of passionate about that, to be the most persuasive thing in when I'm traveling. It's the most persuasive thing is people's passion for their place, and what it has done for them personally, and that personal connection and how it's personally enriched them. I find much more valuable sales tool than selling about a place. It's sort of that notion of seeing the passion behind it and what it's done for them is what I identify with and connect. And once you identify and connect with someone, then you're invested. I do think that the world is the greatest university that there is, and travel is the class card for entering that world. And it's important, I think, to not just do things in isolation. Like I can go somewhere and travel alone and have a big experience, but I think when I'm actually a part of a larger community doing that, it exponentially unfolds not just my experience, but my sense of connection and interconnectedness in the world. Because I think it's one of the great things of travel is it informs us that we're deeply connected to everyone. And often when we travel in a group, we may initially go for safety reasons or whatever and go in this group, but then that group sort of becomes a single organism and makes us even that much more sort of potent. And so I find it's a combination of the two things is just really valuable. I think we're always very much alone, and then very much, we desperately need other people. We can't do it alone. Only you can do it, and you can't do it alone. And I think that's our constant struggle with people. And even in a group, I've traveled in a group and felt very alone, and in a good way felt alone. Felt I was having a singular experience, and then being able to take my own singular experience and sort of reflect it back into the group and have them reflect it back to me. I think that's a valuable thing, and can't happen if you're just traveling on your own. First, I have to say, I think that the world is a much safer place than I've been told it is and led to believe. And I think fear is a dominating factor in people's lives and dominating factor in determining travel destinations too. And I think that's a shame because my experience is that's just bunk. And everywhere I've gone that I'm told I shouldn't go, I found nothing but extraordinary welcomes. Even when there's very little tourist infrastructure, even more so, those people welcome me into their homes. I go to their homes. I have incredible one-on-one encounters with people, which is all you really want when you travel. To me, I can go to a museum, fine, that's great for an hour, but actually having a real connection with the people there, that's why I go, why I travel. So, and there's no cure for fear except walking through it, and once you've done it once, you can do it again, and once I've seen you do it, well, maybe I can do it. And I think it just sort of builds. It also gives a great opportunity for the rest of us. That the world is so afraid of certain places in the world, it's a great opportunity for the rest of us because not everybody's there yet. And so we can get there first and still discover places that are still alien and foreign. There are still a lot of foreign places in the world that are, and that's one of the reasons we go somewhere is to feel very far from home. I find that the farther I feel from home, the more at home I feel at times. I don't want to go there and find the Starbucks. I love Starbucks, it's fine, but I don't want to go find one and have my latte. I want to experience what is there and what's different about it. I don't go somewhere to feel at home, I'm go to feel far from home. And there's great freedom in being far from home. And we all want that feeling of freedom, If I'm traveling for a story, I'll do a certain amount of preparation. If I'm just traveling on my own, I'll usually get my first night's hotel sorted out so I get off the plane and have somewhere to go, and then maybe I'll have one or two things I want to do, but most of them follow my nose, and try and just be open to serendipity and to, encounters with people. Because to me, it's all about the people that I'm meeting and not so much the sights. I can go to a site, but it's the person who I met there is what I'm going to remember. Or that crazy guy who served me coffee, out of his thermos, that kind of thing. So I'll do varying degrees of preparation. Sometimes not at all, sometimes I'll do a lot. I usually throw it out the window though, and I find the more prepared you are, the more you can throw it out the window and be open to serendipity because you're more relaxed. If I feel like even if I don't if nothing spontaneous happens, I'm still going to have a great time. Usually then I'm free to have all sorts of spontaneous things happen. And I come home and I realize, oh, I didn't do any of the things I planned to do. And I had a great time. You know, and traveling, it's always when the things go wrong that is when, you know, you start to really travel. And that's when things are always the best. Yeah, and they do make the best stories, yeah. I was in Calcutta recently, and I had that wonderful feeling that you get when you travel sometimes, that like no one in the world knows where I am right now. It's a fantastic feeling. I love that. I live for that feeling. It's funny, I don't approach the world, because I was never a good student, and I never approached the world as a student, but more of sort of as a wanderer. You know, I found my place by wandering, not by studying. And so I just don't approach the world that way. So it's interesting to see my kids are much more interested in sort of learning and that kind of thing than I was. I learn everything by osmosis, whereas they're more actively interested. And so starting to take them places because they're interested in them has been an education for me. It's one of the great gifts that kids give you, you know. And so I'm sort of learning from them because they have active interest, and sort of following their interests is helpful to me. Only occasionally do you turn a corner and you come upon something, it's like, wow, we're very lucky. You know, that's one of the great things too. You realize how lucky we are here, you know, and how much bounty and overabundance we have. But it doesn't bother me, various levels of what we call squalor. I mean, that's the world. It doesn't, you know, I think I've taken my son with me and my daughter, and I think it's important for them to see that, you know. But it generally doesn't bother me. You know, I'm less offended by what we call squalor than I am by disgusting excess. And I find I'm more offended by excessive packaging than I am by filth. You know, and when I see all this plastic packaging and it's this huge thing, I find that very offensive. Whereas I find a good bodily filth, like, yeah, we're not far from that. I'm just interested in seeing difference, you know, because in that huge difference we find commonality, and I love that. I love the idea that things that are so different and people that seem so different finding connection. I think that's a great thing.